So I love this time sitting on the couch, icing my knee, has been this blessing in disguise. And really, this entire injury has been a blessing in disguise. At some point, years and years ago, I'm kind of joking, but at some point in the past 5, 6 years going through divorce, I genuinely consciously stopped using the word divorce pretty early on in the process because I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to look at my life that way. That's not what I want. That's not the journey I want to take. That's not how I want to portray my experience. So I started using the word transformation. Like pretty early on in that journey, I realized it truly could kill me. And I'm not exaggerating in any way. I could see how it could crush me if I continued to exist in that form, in the form of my ego that I had created over the course of my journey and over the course of my life. You know, this guy that needed to find his partner and his wife and get married and have kids and hold it together and keep my family together. Something I was like, my lifelong goal was keeping my family together. So when you fail at the one thing you thought your entire life's purpose was about, it can be pretty damn crushing. So I knew pretty early on that, and through a lot of practice and, allowing myself to engage in the practice of opening up and facing the stories in my mind and facing the attachments in my body and just observing that my mind and body have a perception of how the world is supposed to work. And my brain and body are constantly measuring this present moment perception and experience through my body and cross-referencing it to everything that I have ever learned and every piece of information I was born with. Our brain and body, and I could say the limbic brain, but I don't want to be so reductionistic about it all the time. This beautiful vessel that we are in is made to automatically compare and contrast our present moment perceptual experience with everything that we have ever stored in memory. And it acts out in our body and in our brain and in our mind almost automatically, like hundreds of milliseconds. So in milliseconds, our entire body and mind is responding to or reacting to everything that we've ever encoded into memory. Everything we believe, everything we're attached to, all the injuries that we've accumulated, the programming of our body automatically acts out in a few milliseconds, couple hundred milliseconds, whatever. And it does it in response to our cross-referencing of past experience in the form of memory with present moment perception. It just happens like that. And so by being willing to lean into that and stop using the word divorce and start using the word transformation, it just completely changed the way that I perceive my life and my experiences. And it doesn't mean I don't feel pain. It doesn't mean I don't feel grief. In some ways I live grief because I say hello and I say goodbye to my children every week, and they are my center. And I want them to have great experiences, of course, with other people. And at the same time, I have to say goodbye to them every week. And I have to watch them say goodbye to me. I have to see the tears in their eyes. And, that's an experience. But by constantly having this attitude of, I'm an observer of that experience. I'm a conscious observer of that experience. I am, without attaching dogma, stories, religion, ideas on top of my personal experience. All I know is that I am an awareness. I am awareness in a body. My awareness transcends the automaticity of my body and my mind. Our awareness transcends the programming of our mind and body. And as Viktor Frankl would say, It's that space between the stimulus and the response, between something happens in the world or something happens in your mind and your body responds to it. There's a moment there where you can step back and observe how your body and your mind are responding to the present moment, regardless of how they're responding, and becoming an observer of it. You get to start choosing how you're telling the story about it, how you're interpreting it, how you're relating to it, how you're making sense of it. And this knee injury for me took me out of, practicing jujitsu really regularly and getting ready for a tournament and really loving this practice and this community that I've gotten to be part of, and getting to do it in my mid and late 40s and not ever expecting that I would get to do that. Having to shatter all kinds of ideas about aging and all kinds of ideas about myself and all kinds of ideas about being an athlete, and the idea that somehow it's I can't be an athlete after my 20s or something, just shattering all these ideas and just leaning into this wonderful experience that's been so good for my heart and my body and my mind. And then getting injured, and genuinely getting injured because I wasn't being present. If I'm taking full responsibility for my own injury, I allowed myself to be in a position that was foolish, and I was not being present in that moment. And what a teacher that is. And so having to step back from that practice, having to hobble around, having to be reminded of the unbelievable gratitude I have for my left knee and now my body, and just the gratitude I have for getting to walk around, for getting to breathe, for getting to be here. We're all complaining so much about this world around us and all the things we're sold and told. We're all acting out this thing together, and too infrequently we don't necessarily step back and be like, holy shit, I get to be here. I get to experience this. I get to be a part of this thing that we don't even know what it is. We don't even know what this is, man. And we have all kinds of people that will tell us what they think it is and what we ought to believe, and what we ought to believe or else. But no one knows. And I'm totally settled into that. I'm cool with not knowing. I'm amazed that I get to be here. And I do experience pain and sadness and all the shit. And I'm sitting here on the couch icing my knee on a Monday night. But in a way, I'm grateful for it. It's been a great teacher. I even learned a lot more about jiu-jitsu through it. I started rolling again without an ACL, and it just forced me to move my body in a completely different way. And I did things that I never would have done had I had my left knee intact. And it was awesome in a way. And what led me to this was I was listening to a meditation by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk that really brought Zen Buddhism, but really to me just brought mindfulness meditation. Because I know a lot of people get turned off by the language of religion and spirituality, so it doesn't need to get in the way of your Christianity or your anything to simply observe your experience of being in your body, being in your mind, being in your breath, observing the present moment experience, and allowing yourself to experience the awareness within, and to observe what the body is up to, what the programmed self is up to, and to observe the awareness that is observing it, and to recognize, paradoxically, ironically, that is where you have a direct experience of what we can only describe as the Holy Spirit or God or oneness or Christ consciousness or love. That's why every single spiritual tradition, including Christianity, is about letting go. It's about surrender. Baptism is about great surrender. and allowing God to become you, allowing Christ to become you, allowing love to become you. So it was interesting to me that where my heart was, what led me to hit record, was I was sitting here with my eyes closed as I was icing my knee, and I was just observing why meditation and how many people I talk to every day about, and or how many people I practice with every day. Something I've probably never shared with a lot of family or friends or just people in my life is that I get to practice meditating with like 8 people a day. And it's an unbelievable experience. And all of a sudden, I haven't even shared or understood that I've now meditated with people thousands of times over the years. Never even thought about it till this moment. And what an unbelievable, pure gift to get to share that kind of space with people on a regular basis. And so I share so many times of, when I meditate with people, I could replace it with the word observation. Like, I'm just teaching you how to observe what you already are experiencing within. That's it. I'm like a tour guide. And for me, meditation is we close the eyes just to simplify, just to turn the attention inward. And we notice that we have attention. And we notice that our attention behind our forehead can be separated and divided in so many different ways. And our attention gets into all these sort of hypothetical spaces and historical and past spaces and future spaces. And if you look at it, you can put your attention anywhere you want. The modern currency of the world is attention. They are mining our attention. And I'm not going to go off in that. It's just, if you can get someone's attention, you have currency. So your attention is valuable. And when you close your eyes and you observe the space behind your forehead, you may notice that your attention is divided up among many, many, many different things, and that you're probably telling really natural stories in the context of all those things, that your body is pulsing in a certain way in relation to those stories. And when we meditate, we sit and we observe the automatic sensations or pulses that are happening in the body, the automatic pulses and thoughts and stories in the mind, how those two come together, the body and the mind, and how that is being triggered and manipulated, and how it is interacting with the world around us. And we're all collectively pulsing. We're all collectively co-creating this thing that we're all upset about. I have conversations with people every single day who are afraid about what's happening in the world. Every single time, those conversations, not necessarily by being led there, but it's just the natural place that we get to, is that the only real answer is surrender. And that's the only answer that most spiritual traditions give us. Radical surrender. Radically surrendering the mind, our attachments to ideas, our belief that there is some other that is responsible for our suffering, our tendency to be very easily separated and divided by race, by fear, by political party, by class, by status, whatever, by zip code, by clothing style. And for me, in my experience, the only answer is to learn to sit back and observe, and to willingly observe the automatic stories in the mind and the body, and to make more deliberate choices about whether you really want to act those things out or not, or whether you want to go into agreement with the fear that people are teaching and preaching, whether you want to go into agreement with the separation and division, whether you want to believe the other, all those people on the other side are somehow evil or wrong or bad. That's nonsense. I've had the blessing of living my life on both sides of the aisle my whole life. And increasingly in my life as an adult, I get to see both sides. We're all the same, man. That's it for now.